public place.
What?
Placement for Starbucks.
No, we're not sponsored by Starbucks.
If you want to pay us a bit of money, we are up for it.
I just love that I'm doing this after. So we're recording this after I went on a hike with Julien today, and I was sort of under the impression that it was going to be a pretty relaxed, walk a few hundred meters from the car, take a few photos. But Julien failed to mention that he was going to be taking me on a 5-kilometer hike. As he typically does, he sort of understated the fact. And yeah, it was a very muddy, there were quite a few leeches. So I haven't been able to clean up, so I have dirt all up my legs. It looks like I murdered someone. It looks like there's blood on my leg right here, but it's just dirt from splashing up while you're taking photos. So welcome to the end of the trip. It's a long time coming with this video. It's been about 3 months since we actually got back from that trip. We've just been sort of lazy about doing this, mainly because this guy lives so far away from me.
But in a good place.
In a good place. But we're finally getting around to it. We're finally going to do this sort of wrap-up video of the trip, which I promised at the end of my last video. And yeah, pretty much what we're going to do is we're just going to chat about all the stuff that didn't get shown on camera on the trip. And we're going to go through a few of our favorite photos, because you saw quite a few of mine, but you haven't actually seen any of Julien's photos. And funnily enough, he was just telling me today that the photos that he took on the trip, he wasn't actually too happy with them now that it's been quite a while, which is, I find it pretty funny, because we were in some pretty amazing locations, and I saw myself, he got some really nice photos, but for some reason, he just doesn't feel too happy with them anymore. I don't know.
When you're becoming to be a good photographer, you put some expectation on your quality.
So you're a good photographer now.
Just now.
So
it just came lately,
So you're telling me that you were a bad photographer when we were doing that trip?
No. I'm telling you that I was a good photographer, and I decided to choose a very limited amount of photos.
Very limited amount. Look at this guy.
I think it's really good that we have 3 months before we make this video, because now we have a really good
perspective.
We have a good. I think it's really good that we had 3 months before we did this video, because we have a good retrospective on what we shoot and why we shoot it. It's not really fresh. We have the time to think about it.
Yeah, knowing both of us, we actually managed to finish editing our photos. Because I'm not the only one who has a bad habit of not editing or uploading or sharing any of their photos. That's both of us. But
I actually pretty much edited everything the first night. But it's always like a quick edit, and then I know that I need to go back. I need to make a final version of it, and I don't do it.
I like how you said you edited your photos the first night, because I know how messed up you were after that 12-hour drive getting back.
But I actually, maybe it's the day after.
Yeah. By the end of that drive, I was seeing kangaroos that weren't actually there on the side of the highway, running in front of the car. And I was thinking at that point, Jesus Christ, Julien has to start driving right now, because this is dangerous. But we had quite a few eventful moments on the trip.
Yeah. So maybe we start with the first day. We basically drive 8 hours to go to the national park area. Basically, it's like different national park, but they are all about 1 to 2 hours drive from each other.
Yeah, and we went to the national park that no one ever really goes to, so It was nice to go there and get some photos of that spot. It was a bit out of the way, but even just going into the Arcadia Valley, which I mentioned in the first video, we didn't even know that place really existed, but when we got in there, it was just such a nice scenery to be surrounded in.
There's one thing that was tricky, and I didn't expect it when we were driving and shooting photo along the way, is that we saw a couple of baobab trees like midday, and I really didn't expect it, because we are shooting at 400 mil. I didn't know this hot summer day and this heat was distorting everything, and I really didn't expect that. It was almost impossible to make a regular, not abstract photo.
Yeah, but I really liked it for the abstract ones. I actually took a few of just dead trees sitting in a field, as much of a cliche as that is for landscape photographers.
That's the second day.
That was the second day. Yeah.
Because the first day we actually managed to get in there in time just for sunset.
Yeah.
Barely, because we managed to not hit any kangaroo. Very
close. Yeah.
But it's really a stunning location, but nobody knows about it. So it's very worth it to to look when you go to a national park, to look what other national park there is around.
Yeah,
Because
even just the wildlife and bird life there at sunset was amazing.
Yeah.
You don't really see that anywhere else. Even we were just seeing wedge-tailed eagles. There were so many wedge-tailed eagles just on the side of the road, and even just driving around the scenic rim as much as I've done over the years, that's maybe a once in a year sort of sighting. So it was really amazing to see quite a few of those, as well as other bird life and tons of kangaroos.
Although we saw one in New England National Park.
Oh yeah, we did.
So it's a twice a year thing.
Twice a year thing, but we're special. We go on landscape photography trips.
And this Nuga Nuga is really great because we could just drove into it with a van. With a car.
I wish it was a van. That car
I
was
used
tiny.
to have a van.
That car was jam-packed, and by the end of that trip, the food and all the other crap in the car and dirty clothes, it just smelled horrible.
Yeah, perfect location to camp out. And actually, it's great to take photo. It really look like things that we have around here, like Mugera Lake, which is hugely shot, but still it's different.
Yeah, even Wirelong Dam, they pretty much look like the exact same spot. I think I made the joke at some point, either to Julien or maybe I mentioned it on my Instagram or something, but we drove 8 hours into Central Queensland just to shoot a lake that we could drive 1 hour or two from Brisbane and see. But it was a really nice change in scenery, just comparing the two. There were a lot more dead trees sitting in there. The light coming off the water was at just the right angle where the sky pretty much just went on fire. It was really nice, really nice.
It's actually only the morning after when we explored a bit more the area where I seen that there's this huge mountain with red rock, very nice place.
Yeah.
I wish I would have shot it with maybe a bit of better light, but it makes it really different than things that we have around here, but we only found this the day after.
Yeah, and when I mentioned in the video that we were rushed to take sunset, it was a little bit understated because we were so rushed. We literally got there, and within 10 minutes of arriving, the sun was gone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, it was just get what you can. And I was pretty happy with the one that I got. I got a pretty perfectly timed image. So pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to bring this photo up on the iPad, and I'm going to sort of go through the reasons of why I like it, put a little red pen on it, and sort of critique it, I'd say. And maybe even talk a little bit of shit about the edit for this one, because I may or may not have edited it for print, so it looks a little bit less desaturated, a little bit less contrasty than I want, just because I was wanting to put it on paper and then it would have the contrast from the inks on the paper.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is that looking at it, it's really dull compared to the vivid color that we had this night.
Yeah, honestly, the one that I shared on Instagram, I'm pretty sure I even uploaded that one as the proof I did for print. I didn't actually upload the right one. I just sort of kept that quiet. I didn't want to mention that I messed that one up. But honestly, such a nice photo, such a perfect moment. We came into camp, I saw these trees right here, and I don't even remember, this was a long time ago, I don't remember if I did this intentionally, but I perfectly timed it with this pelican just passing right in the middle of the frame. And I was, at least going home, again, this is a while ago, so I don't really remember what I was feeling at the time, but I was so happy to see I had this photo perfectly timed, because I took it a few where it was sort of moving through the scene, the tripod was staying where it was, and then I just got this perfect one right with it in the middle. I just love that about the photo. And what else I like about the photo is how I feel like the open space that I have in this part of the image, it doesn't detract from the scene. I think, if anything, it gives it a little bit of breathing room. It doesn't feel as crowded. And overall, it just feels really nice, especially even with the balance that I have of the horizon right here. And even while you're coming in, we were noticing going through the Arcadia Valley that there was smoke coming off from the horizon. And I think that actually quite adds to the image that I have here, because luckily enough, this smoke was also placed between the trees. It wasn't really overlapping with any of them.
Yeah, I think that's really the important bit. You had to not have any tree overlapping, but the smoke was meant to be in between the trees as well.
Yeah, but if anything I'd critique this image with, I probably could have fixed this when I was taking the image, but it's the fact that these trees over here are overlapping. Other than that, I think it's just such a lovely image. It just made that rush worth it, because we were proper rushing to get to the location. But not much else I can really say about that image. just other than the fact that I'm really happy with it. I mean, there were a lot of images, even some that I shared in the videos that I wasn't super crazy about.
I really wanted to go for a long time to Carnarvon National Park. Carnarvon?
I said it wrong the entire trip.
Yeah.
Looking at my videos, it's...
Carnarvon?
No, Carnarvon.
Carnarvon. Ooh, gonna be
Not
hard.
Carnarvon.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying the whole trip.
Yeah, I can make the mistake. I'm French. You shouldn't.
Yeah, it hurts my soul every time I was looking at those videos on the timeline, editing it, thinking, oh, I said that wrong. I didn't pronounce that name right.
I really wanted to go there for a long time. But funny enough, my favorite photos are almost all taken not in this national park, and most of them in this particular national park. The next morning, so basically, we were looking on one side of the river, and we had an inlet of land, and in the other side it was the same lake with the same kind of tree, but with a mountain in the background. And it's where I went in the morning, but it was not really at sunrise. Sunrise we did it at the same location where Michael showed you the previous photo. So I was probably here in mid golden hour or late golden hour. So the light was still not trash, but I suppose I could have had a much better light because it would catch probably the first glow of the morning. I mean, I would have really liked to see buff photo.
Yeah.
But still, there are some of my favorite photos today from this trip, so it was not that bad of a light.
Yeah.
So basically, this is a very simple image in terms of composition. There is the horizon, which is really in the middle of the frame, and it's really a mirror mirroring this mountain in the lake. That was really great because for the 20 minutes I was there, it was really calm, no wind in this particular area. But when I was finishing of shooting, it was not possible to shoot this anymore because there was a lot of ripples everywhere and you couldn't shoot this at all. Few things that are not really great is here I have a tree which is really close to the edge. But anyway, there's so many trees here, very dense, that it's almost impossible to have a perfect room. And they are not so big and taking not so much place in the image, so it's not such a problem. In terms of edit, there's one thing that I didn't want it to have. It's a very strong blue. I really wanted it to be a bit faded, to not have so much, because I don't really like blue sky. And so the idea was to have this sky not taking too much importance in the frame. Yeah, so that's really the easy version. And then I took this shot that I really like too, so it's really hard for me to choose between both of them. So it's also the composition is not very hard, but this time instead of having the reflection of the mountain, I have just the ground which is taking a bit less than a third of the image, and I really wanted, I didn't give more importance to this area because I really wanted to have this area here showing the red rock, because red rock is something that we don't really have around where we live. It's really something that I miss of Australia, going a bit in the center of Australia. It was a bit of reminding, so I really wanted to include that. Not much to say on the edit. Same here, it's really hard to have a clean side, but it doesn't make too much problem because you have this big tree here, which are taking the main focus on the tree, so you wouldn't see so much the side one. And yeah, basically not so hard. Finally, one of my favorite photos was taken on the way back, going back to the camp the same morning.
Yeah, just where I was mentioning that the heat was building. Oh, this one here, the one you go to the bird.
Yeah. I have this bird here. Yeah. So this bird is probably a rosella. It's a type of rosella that we have at home, but I never managed to get a good photo of them. And I really like the color. They have this pale blue with the yellow. And I tried all morning to take photo of them, but they are really elusive and going away. And so I took really all morning to get a photo. And it was funny because this photo was taken like meters away from the car. And probably the last photo, my last attempt of getting a good photo of them. And I think this is working very well as a composition because firstly, here it's a background which is very simple and there's no distraction. I don't have like a no horizon line here with tree or anything. It's really clear. And what's working very well is, so basically what's working very well is a bird watching in this direction with this nice curve here. The curve is really working well for the photo. And yeah, the color, which is quite golden, I think I probably worked a bit on the yellow too, because maybe it was a bit white. We were really at the end of the golden hour. But yeah, it's really a photo that I really like. The only thing I would maybe change It's here. I might have cloned the blue pearl that we have here, which is very white and taking a bit of distraction on the photo. But otherwise than that, I'm really very happy with this photo. And it's a bit good to go back a bit to wildlife photography after.
Then the rest of the second day, we pretty much spent the time driving to our next location, which was actually Carnarvon Gorge, where we were meant to be camping for the whole trip pretty much, or at least the national park we were meant to be staying in. But that ended up pretty much going down the crapper and we had to adjust.
But such a lovely drive between these two national parks.
It was
still.
Yeah. It was much nicer than the ones that we had to do the other days because
we had time.
It was just hot driving through plains. It was awful. But it was nice spreading out of the Arcadia Valley. It was really nice.
We took the chance of driving the drone next to the car. It was nice.
Yeah, and I was hanging out the side of the window on the driver's side, arm grabbing onto the top of the car with the Osmo in hand, just getting that B-roll of us driving down.
And actually, something I really wanted to shoot else than the Carnarvon Gold Coast in this way is that I saw on a couple of photos of a photographer that there might be some bottle trees. I don't think they are not baobab trees, just bottle trees. It's a bit of a different species, but it's basically this tree which is like bigger, like a bottle at the bottom of them. And actually, we saw quite a bit during this drive.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to see them so easily. We were not there at the best time of the day for sunset, sunrise, but we still managed to get some good photo, and actually they are probably some of my favorite photo of this trip.
I think with the heat distortion, if anything, it actually just better represented the subject of the photos because those trees are, well, that's like their whole life cycle. They live in the desert, they live in the heat, and they're designed to endure that like horrible conditions.
Yeah, I still like my subject to be fairly sharp and not distorted, but I managed to find trees that were close enough to not be distorted.
Yeah.
So for me it worked well.
As you can see, Julien took a lot more photos on this sort of pre-Carnarvon side than I did, and he was a lot happier with the ones he took than I was.
Yeah, it's funny.
I was sort of stuck with weird, abstract, dreamy-like images with the heat distortion, but Julien sort of got some more.
So that's an easy composition with this bottle tree. So you can see that this tree it's thicker here. It's not that obvious on this one, but still you will see a difference compared to a normal tree. Yeah, an addition of the fur basically like this. And it's funny because I took this photo. I had actually to walk out of the car quite a bit because there's some barrier here, and I really wanted to remove the man-made thing because it was probably 10 or 20 meters from it. And so I went directly next to the barrier and shot this tree handheld. It was really sunny, that's why I went for black and white because I didn't really like the light. And I was really happy because I waited and this cloud just rolled over, and it's really balancing this part of the composition with this one, which is really, really working for me. And at the same time, this tree is balanced by this group of trees here that actually Michael shot. But yeah, I'm really happy with this photo. I really wanted to get some portfolio shot from the baobab tree. And yeah, quite happy with that. And a couple of meters after this one, I actually shot this one. It's probably one of my favorite photos of the tree.
Yeah, this was just before we got out of the Arcadia Valley.
It was basically 5 minutes away from the other shot.
Yeah.
And that's also a baobab tree, but I think it has a bit more character because like it's taller, the fall suppressing so much the bottom part of it, even if it's probably less thick at the bottom than the other one. But it was great. I really like this hole in the tree, still giving character to the tree, and it's a bit leaning to the left. That's what I like about the tree. And I took this photo handheld quickly. There was a lot of cow walking through, so I had to time it to not have any cow next to the tree. And I really liked these branches here, which are actually drawing the attention like this to the tree. At the start, I was aiming at focus stacking it to have everything in focus because I like to have everything in focus. But I thought that keeping this part a bit out of focus was giving more presence to this tree here.
Yeah. I think if anything, it just makes what would have been a pretty boring foreground.
Yeah, probably.
Interesting.
But here, I think the foreground is working very well.
Yeah. It just sucks by that point that I was too sick of getting out of the car that I didn't
Exactly.
actually go and take that photo.
Especially that I had to walk quite a bit for this photo, I mean.
And I was just waiting with the flies all over my face. It was just awful. I think after that photo, we didn't really take any more images that day that really made it into our sort of portfolio-worthy, wow, these are so amazing images. It really was just a miserable hike to end the day. Going up the side of that hill, what was it called? Something Bluff?
No, I don't know the old Bluff thing.
It was something Bluff. I would have said it in the video, but...
The hike was hard. It was late, and it was really, really, really humid.
It wasn't even late. When it was late, and we got to the top, it was 4 o'clock, and sunset was at 6.
And the sad part is that in the way up, there was a nice tree, orange tree.
Yeah.
Really, really hard to shoot, but nice enough to say, oh, we should stop. And we thought we would be late for sunset, so we didn't stop. We would have actually the time to shoot it, but we didn't.
Yeah.
And so the day afterwards, we had to go back there to shoot it, even if it didn't worth it at the end for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, I wish we'd have stopped and say, oh, it's not working, to not go back this way, because we're really sloppy and really warm to go up this way.
Yeah, I did mention in the video that we might go up to that tree the next day to take a photo, but I didn't include the next one, us actually doing it. But we did go back up
Yeah,
that
we
hill.
did make the effort, and it was an effort to go back there.
And it was an effort because we'd done that after we'd done a 10-kilometer hike into the gorge. And we thought, oh, we'll just throw it on the end. How bad can it be? You know, we drove 8 hours to be here. We might as well get this composition. It was not worth it. It wasn't worth it at all. We didn't get anything. And it was so hopeful. That tree looked so nice with its orange leaves. I'll probably include just an image that's not very good of what the tree looked like, and maybe you'd sort of see the potential that we saw in it, but it was just impossible to compose with the conditions that we were in.
But if we go back to this first day, when we arrived on top an hour before sunset, at least, even if we thought we were minutes before sunset. But the tricky part is that it's really a lot of trees up there, and you have a couple of views.
Yeah.
So it doesn't let you compose many different photos.
Yeah.
The main view will be looking out of the canyon, so more in the Arcadia Valley, I suppose.
Yeah.
And the composition you did a panorama. I think they're fine, but it's nothing so
it's
good.
It's just these plateaus are just so far away.
Yeah.
There's not much you can do with it unless you. And I did make a 20-shot pano just going across the entire side of those plateaus.
And the light was not bad even.
The light wasn't bad, but I didn't even share that image because, who wants to see a 20-shot, probably 6x1 pano of just the flat plateau.
Plus it was not, it's not about the composition also, just that it's
just a thing.
Not so good,
Yeah.
And the other side is more interesting because you have the canyon going in. It's kind of the same that you could get with a drone or so.
Yeah.
But with a drone, you can be higher. Here it's hard. And in this way, it was really hard to get tree out of your compo. I did my best.
Yeah.
But even it didn't manage.
Hang on the side of a...
No. To be very good, you will need to be in the middle of the canyon to have a buff line going straight in the middle of the composition.
Yeah.
But for this, you need to fly.
Yeah, which I was with my drone that night. I had that drone footage in my first video of going around where we were taking the photos, and I tried my best to compose an image with the drone, but it just wasn't working out at all. The compositions were all right. They weren't amazing. I think I took a few of the images, but I haven't even bothered editing them. I was just so unimpressed by them.
Actually, I have a drone shot. I'll just put it here. It's a panorama of 6 photo, 2 row, I think.
Oh, you have a drone shot? I thought you crashed your drone.
That's coming. But I quite like it because the light, I was lucky because the light was hitting the mountain. Michael couldn't fly because his drone battery was flat at the time, I think.
Whatever.
But it's fine. It's fun, and it's actually what I like about the gorge leading into the photo that you can't really get with your camera. Even if we had a very nice sunset, it went really quite red, the sky, but not really worth it for photo. But funny story about the drone, other than I crashed my drone later on. But another funny story is that we took drone photo and video almost through the trip in Carnarvon National Park.
No, I don't know if we're allowed to mention this.
Yeah, too late, we already told it. But the thing is, in 99% of the national park in Queensland, you can fly your drone. In Tasmania, for example, you can fly a drone in almost no national park. In Queensland, everywhere you can. But so I didn't really check into that. And actually, we went, and in Tasmania, there is like at the information center, is like everywhere information, don't drive your drone, don't fly your drone. But here, it's really literally the last day after we did all our shooting, all our photos with drone, that we saw information thing like few kilometers.
Information thing, a street sign.
A street sign.
A single street sign.
Few kilometers before the main entrance of the national park.
I don't even think it said no drones. I think it was just a picture of an old DJI Phantom drone with a big X through it.
Yeah.
And that was the only indication we had that you're not allowed to fly drones. And when we were coming into the park, we didn't notice the sign.
We were like focusing on the trees and there was a fire security thing doing. So we were like exciting to go. And really it's funny because it's not like we broke the law in purpose, because sometimes I do fly my drone where I shouldn't, but here it's
you're not allowed to say.
But anyway, I don't have a drone anymore. But yeah, it was funny. We had a good laugh at this point, be thinking that we could have missed any information necessary to this.
Well, you even look it up online. If you go to Carnarvon National Park on the National Park Service website, no mention of not being able to fly drones.
Yeah, and you have to pull up a really strange PDF with all the area where you can go, and it's mentioned in small.
Yeah.
That between 4 coordinates in the national park, it's not even the one national park. I think it's just some areas. I think in the gorge because it's pretty sensitive because there's a lot of people there.
So if anyone asks, all of that supposed drone footage you thought you saw in my videos,
it's big tripod.
I actually chartered a private helicopter and I was hanging out the side of it and taking those with my camera. I wasn't flying a drone.
I'm thinking that a big tripod is a better story,
Hey, you should get one of those. Ugh. But honestly, that sunset, I mean, I got some great feedback on those photos. People enjoyed the photos I took that day. Like, people were saying, "Oh, I like this image."
Your friends, huh?
Yeah. But honestly, I wasn't crazy about them. No. Like, it was what it was. It was a rough hike up. Honestly, it wasn't really worth it. It could be if we had better conditions, but it just wasn't there on that day. But yeah. That pretty much summed up that day. Was there anything crazy that happened that night, or was that all the other nights?
No, but we did this cave. It was Sunday. We went to do the Cathedral Rock. No, was it after?
No, it was the day after. Yeah.
So no. Basically, it was this day. It was a easy night compared to the rest of the following night.
Yes, that was. That was a much easier night. Oh, God.
The campground was great. It was packed, but still clean and everything.
Yeah, it was really well managed as well. So if you're going for a camping trip, Carnarvon National Park main campsite, such a nice spot to go. Such nice facilities and everything. The hikes around are fantastic. You can go down to the creek just by the campsite, and there's platypus in there.
Was it the next night that the following morning that I looked you up? Or was it the one afterwards again?
Well, that was a few days in.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a platypus there, but we're going to have some story about this platypus.
Yeah, I can say that one now. So, Julien wanted to get some photos of platypus in the creek.
Very badly.
Because he heard that there were platypus in that creek, and we went around the first day we got there, midday. Of course, we're not going to see anything, but we were being hopeful maybe we'll spot something.
Yeah, and we spot the place where they might be, because they need to be puddled.
And then, so we decided at some point we'd do a sunrise, and we go and take photos there, and we agreed, we both want to do this. We both want to take photos.
Wasn't that clear?
I think it was very clear. We're there to take photos. We're obviously going to be taking photos together. And then...
But you like your sleep.
Yes, I like my sleep. But then, one day where Julien decides he wants to do this. So I had put my bag in Julien's car with all my camera stuff so that I wouldn't get rained out in the rainstorm that we slept through that night.
Good decision.
And I wake up the next morning and, I expect Julien to be there, and he's not there. Somehow he got out of the tent without waking me up, proceeded to get all of his stuff out of the car, go all the way down to the creek with the car locked. He locked the car. To go all the way down to the creek, walk down there, and take photos of platypus. So I wake up maybe about half an hour after the sunrise, and I think to myself, where did Julien go? And I'm just absolutely,
at the platypus.
I'm absolutely baffled for a minute, and then I remember that there are platypus to take photos of in the morning. So I say, oh, maybe I'll get my camera gear and put my hiking boots on. But wait, my hiking boots are in the car. My camera bag is in the car. All I can bring down is my water bottle.
And your horrible griefs.
And my horrible green slides. So we had to do some creek crossings to get there, and I had to go across in my green slides and just trash those.
Appropriate footwear.
Appropriate footwear, as a wise man would say. And I just get to watch Julien taking photos of platypus.
And it was strange for me to see you come without your camera. I didn't really understand why.
Yeah, it's not like you walked into the car or anything like that.
But you were sleeping so well. It was... We didn't really know for sure you were platypus. I really wanted to not awake you for you to have the sleep.
Sure.
But anyway, we went after so 2 days afterward we went back. This time you had your camera.
Yeah,
we had at least a good hour, maybe a good hour and a half seeing the platypus. I had the perfect shop set up. And this guy is walking loudly like a tourist. The platypus dived just a meter in front of me. I still hate you for that. Even if my settings were wrong, I would probably miss the photo, but yeah. So I think we're fair.
It's okay. I just wanted my photos to be better than yours. Otherwise, how am I going to impress people with my amazing wildlife photography in front of someone who started as a wildlife photographer?
Yeah, so that was really great to see platypus. But yeah, I'm not madly in love with this photo. I mean, it's nice. The video are quite nice. It's supposed to have video because it was really close to us at one point, maybe a meter.
Yeah, they were coming pretty close at just 1 or 2 points, but otherwise it was really, zoomed out at 400 millimeters and just this little small thing in frame, and you just have to crop in.
Few abstract nice because there was a nice ripple and not manly. I mean, it's not working as well as the bird photography the bird photo that I did show you before. I think it's more like an artistic photo, while the other photo is more like just a photo of a platypus that anybody could do.
It's really hard to beat the images that are already out there done by, proper professionals who are doing this as a job, because they can, really get up close to the platypus and, get photos that aren't taken from 20 meters away of them.
Or you will need to take the photo of a platypus. I saw a story of somebody in Tasmania and the platypus was just rolling over the rocks, walking on the stream, and then when you have out of the water, but it's really too much confusing with the water.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see.
I don't know how lucky you'd have to be at least where we were to get it out of the water, because it was really just one big valley going in on the creek. There wasn't really any spot for it to go up on either side.
Couldn't do much better. Man. What you could do, it's really wait really close to the water and have him very, really not on an angle, so you will have his head more. You will have more relief, if you can say.
But I think that's getting a bit ahead of ourselves. We're gonna go back to day 2.
Day 3. So platypus was nice.
Day 3. Platypus are nice. You locked me in a car, which wasn't very nice, but then we shot platypus a few days later, and it was
good. It was fine. You don't.
I still don't forgive you. I could have got a National Geographic worthy shot that day. You never know.
Sure.
But the 3rd day. So our plan for that day, going into the day, we said, we'll have a relatively easy day. We'll take it easy because yesterday was just lots of driving, and that hike up the side of the hill was awful. And our relaxed day turned into, as we mentioned before, about a 10-kilometer hike in just open sun coming down on us.
With tourists.
Yeah, with tourists.
And by the way, I hate tourists.
With Julien's sour face, even though he is a tourist himself. We both were. But it's okay, we're landscape photographers. We're better than tourists. It's our location. They need to move out of the
Someone was not meant to be, but we really time or visit in the school holidays.
Yeah.
It was not planned at all. We just choose randomly a week at the start.
Yeah.
And I wish, it was not that bad, but I like to be out of the holidays when I go like this somewhere.
Luckily enough, though, for at least most that I know, I was shooting more so abstract with my telephoto. I wasn't really trying to get any wide shots where people would be getting in the way. I was sort of just able to find my spot, sit down, put the camera and telephoto on the tripod, and just point it up into the cave walls and take out compositions. And I got quite a few really nice abstracts from there that I'm super happy with. So now I finally get to share another one of my photos. So this is the familiar one that you have in the thumbnail. For my second video, I think, this is my thumbnail. And what I love about this image, and I knew this when I was taking it, is that this rock face here almost looks like a person's face. And I just love that about it, because it's so nice to find like some sort of representation in the landscape of something that isn't the landscape. And it's just so nicely balanced by the geometry here. And the two things I love about this, as well as the face, and this is super simple composition, there's not much to say about it, but essentially the diagonal line you have going here and the diagonal line you have going here, because they just create like a really nice set of triangles on this side of the image, which just balance out more so the square shape on this side. But I really like the balance of these lines, and I just like the feel of the image, and even in the tone of the rock surfaces, how one side seems a lot warmer than the other, and the other side seems much cooler. It just creates a really nice contrast, and a contrast of feeling in the image. It's just honestly one of my favorite images from the trip. And it's pretty funny to think that, because we were in such a amazing scenic gorge, and here I am taking photos of the rocks on the side of the wall. The abstracts are really what I was all about.
There was quite a few opportunity of reflection of the cliff in the rivers, but it really seems to be too much done already. Everything looked to be done. But you don't have opportunity to compose your own thing, and that's, I think, what was interesting about this trip is like going to this iconic place. We really went for shooting things that wouldn't be shot by anybody else than you, because you are the only one seeing this kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess the funny thing about this is that I actually went into this trip, like, I knew what Carnarvon Gorge was, but I think purposely didn't look at any photos from anyone at this gorge. I sort of just went in blind and tried to take photos of whatever I could find. And still to this day, I haven't actually looked at any photos of the gorge. So for all I know, every photo that I'm showing you guys has already been done, but I feel like they're probably a bit unique to the ones that I took.
So basically we went back from this walk, which a part of abstract didn't lend so many opportunities. We went back to this tree on the way that we mentioned before, and it was really hard there, and we were meant on going the next day to the end of the gorge, basically, which is not such a long hike. Again, I think 10K one way.
It felt long.
Huh?
It felt long, though.
It felt long, because it's a bit monotonous, and you don't really know when it's going to stop. There's not really, not many ways to see where you are, especially we didn't know the area. But before this day, actually, we had a night, and what a night. I think it's one of the biggest thunderstorm I had in a tent. And there was literally this amount of water running under the tent, because we were a bit of like a puddle. I mean, there was a bit of a depression.
A bit of a depression in the ground. But this was the third night for us, and just the circumstances leading up to this huge rain shower they were just funny. I think that night we were deciding to have wraps, and we knew that the rain was coming. We could tell something was on the way. We were thinking, we'll quickly get some dinner in, and then we'll go to the tent.
Like wine?
We had some wine as well. So we finished our wraps. We're having some wine before we go back to the tent. And suddenly it goes from 0 to 100. Suddenly it's just belting down rain. And we have to pack up the stove. We have to pack up all of our gear, all the cooking stuff, with our half-full wine glasses. Not wine glasses even, our half-full camping cups full of wine. Running through the rain, trying to get back to our tent. And what proceeded to happen was probably the worst rainstorm I've ever been out in. And there was a river below our tent. You'd push down on the canvas inside of it, and you'd feel the water moving around it. We were like, not even in a puddle. It was more than a puddle. It was just a little pond.
And everything else was mud.
Everything else was mud. And after the rainstorm had finished, it lasted for maybe about an hour. It was quite a while.
Yeah, it could have been even longer, maybe.
The managers of the campsite were coming around asking if everyone was okay, and we heard that even a few people had to even leave because their tents got flooded and destroyed. So we're lucky that Julien spent a bit of money when he got his tent and it held up from the storm, because that was awful.
Yeah, I think it was pretty much at the limit of the waterproofing of the tent because humidity was starting to go through the bottom.
Yeah, it was coming through the top of the tent as well in that little opening.
That was fine.
The worst thing about this entire thing is because I've been having wine, I had to pee. I had to go to the toilet, and I couldn't get out of the tent in that pouring rain, and it was getting really down to the wire, and luckily that rain stopped because that would have not been fun for me or Julien.
Yeah, and it was a desolation. Like everybody was trying to cover the tent.
Yeah, it was chaos.
And it was muddy everywhere, and like there was a little river going to the toilet where there was no water before, no water the day afterward, but it was like flooded at the time.
Yeah.
Very crazy. But yeah, we managed to get our sleep and so go to on a big day afterward.
Yeah, luckily we managed to get some sleep, but that was probably the best sleep I got for the next few days because when we got to Big Bend, that was not a good night for me.
Second night coming.
Okay,
we'll have to go a bit quicker, I suppose.
Yeah, we're going to have to speed this up because we just had a bit of a hiccup. It turns out, you guys will know this from now because the cameras will switch and it'll just be that one there showing us talking. But both of our cameras cut off because that's just the joy of shooting in 4K. So my camera shot about 20 minutes and apparently Julien's shot about half an hour. So you're going to have been looking through this little camera right here and seeing the side of Julien's face for about half an hour. Depending what we cut this down to, but that could be the worst of it.
Yeah.
But
okay, let's go on. So we went on this big hike.
Yeah.
I didn't make many shots till we arrived to the campground. We stopped for this blue gum.
Yeah.
But at the end, I'm not really happy with the photo.
Yeah. I was all right with the photos. Like, they were nice images, but other than that, it was sort of just a slog to get to the final location because it really started wearing down on us. And by the time we got to camp, it was already like 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah, and sunset was at 4:30.
Oh, it wasn't at 4:30.
5?
I was like at 6.
No.
Sunset wasn't really an issue for us that day. We sort of got the timing all right with that, luckily.
Yeah, well, we didn't have more than an hour, I think, in the gorge.
Yeah.
So yeah, we arrived at the campground, and the place is famous for a little side canyon, going a bit winning for a few kilometers and like getting narrower and narrower.
Yeah.
Especially the narrower part is probably the first part, but it's really famous for that. That's why I wanted to go there actually, and I didn't take too much time editing them so far, but I'm not so much crazy about this photo. I think the light is missing a bit. I mean, it's fine. It was really nice to walk there, to crash my drone trying to take a shot. But yeah, I'm not crazy about the photo, but you have a couple that you like, I think.
Yeah, that was my favorite part about the trip though. Julien crashing his drone. Because I actually, like, that's the reason that I initially didn't want to take my drone off. But after I saw Julien do it, I thought, I can be careful enough, I can be gentle enough with the controls of this drone that I won't bump it into the side of anything.
But yeah, it didn't kill him. The killing part went a couple of weeks or months afterwards. But we took another photo also in this gorge, took a lot of composition. I think you have one that you can show us.
Honestly, with the first night, not too happy with any of the photos, but the next morning is when it got really great. After that horrible sleep I got that night. I mentioned in the third video I made that I had not gotten much sleep. I literally meant I got 0 sleep that night because it was just so hot and humid in the tent. I just wasn't able to get to sleep. I was just a sweaty mess. It was.
And we got another thunderstorm here. Maybe not as bad as the first one, but pretty bad as well.
It wasn't bad, but it was loud because you'd hear the lightning. You'd see the lightning and it would just be a big bang.
Bouncing in the
because it would bounce off all sides of the gorge and it was also really close. It was really crazy to hear is what I'd say. But the next morning was really nice for us because we had that rain coming down. It created a division in the rocks that went through the gorge. And that just added another element to all the compositions that really worked for them. So I'll go through that image and I'll go through my favorite image from there and I'll sort of show you what I really liked about that one because it's another one that I used for my thumbnail in my video just because I was so happy with it and I wasn't actually able to pick between the portrait version of it and landscape. I actually printed off the portrait one and I put that one on my wall, but I'm still pretty happy with the landscape one and honestly I might even like it better.
Yeah, I think I've seen both of them. I prefer the landscape version.
But I explained this one when I was taking the original composition, that what I really liked about this one was firstly how you had the curving of this gorge right here and how it was sort of met with the curving out shape of this side of the gorge. I really thought those ones worked together and they created a really harmonious feel to the image. Especially with this curve sort of leading you down the valley, I really liked the way that the edges of this really directed you into the frame. And then on top of that, the extra element that I just mentioned before, and I mentioned in the video, was this really nice division that we had of the two types of rocks along the valley and how some of them had been rained on and some of them hadn't. And I used the polarizer in this to sort of reduce the impact of that. It reduced the reflective impact of that and sort of emphasized the contrast between them, because when you put that polarizer on there, the blackness of the rocks really showed up and it really made them stand out and be more defined with that line passing through the gorge, because there were no reflections on the left side, but there were on the right. And on top of that, Julien mentioned this one just earlier before we started recording this, but what he really liked about this image, and I agree with this, is how I just have that little bit of sky included here. And it sort of just creates the feeling that you can just feel the light channeling down and filling this valley with just a cold warmth. And it even seems like there's a little bit of fog up there when there really wasn't. It was actually just rain consistently coming down. So you could even see in that video us having to keep the lens cap on the camera between shots and just be very careful about taking images with it. But I really prefer these images over the day before, just because everything was so much more saturated. Because you had that division in the rocks. It just really worked for the image is what I'd say. But so happy with this image. That's why I used it as a thumbnail. And honestly, I'd probably be happy printing this one out as A3 and just hanging it up, because it's just such a nice image.
Yeah, so basically that was 2 days in this canyon, and then we had to go back because it's a one-way to go back to our camp in our car.
Yeah.
So we just walked under the big thunderstorm. At the start it was really, really loud, raining quite a bit.
It was raining more than quite a bit. It was bucketing down. It was enough that I had to only use the GoPro. I didn't even consider taking the camera out of the bag for those conditions, because the thunder was banging down, the rain was pouring down on us, and it made me so glad that I decided to buy a rain cover.
That was a good thing.
I was very close to not buying one. I thought $50 for a rain cover. Who wants to spend that? I'll be fine. We're going to Central Queensland. Of course, it's not going to rain. And then it's just the worst thunderstorm.
And I took 3 or 4 times the decision of taking my camera out, and one time was for a kangaroo that I really liked, was standing up on the grass with a nice tree in the background.
Yeah, Julien actually took an image of that one. I only got the video of that in mind, so I'll put up his image and you can sort of see what it looked like.
And actually we both took our camera out for the next place where I shot. There was a lot of low clouds just at the base, at the top, more than the base. At the top of the cliff, there was a bit of low cloud, and there's a lot of eucalyptus tree on top of this cliff.
Yeah.
And I know that Michael took one that I think he liked quite a bit on the side of the
the cliff. Hanging off the side, the one that I included in the video.
And basically, I was a meter away from him shooting like the cliff next to. Once again, not at all a photo that I would have considered taking there, but I really like it. And it's funny because we are saying this quite a bit, but it's really simple. It's a composition with simple, and we say that quite a bit because actually we're trying to get photos which are simple and not too messed up and messy and full of things. So we every time we will start to talk about a composition, for us it will be mostly a simple composition. And here it's the same. Like you really have the cliff taking this part. And I composed trying to have nice trees, especially this one and this one. I tried to not have too much of the sky, so there's only this bit here that I would have liked to have trees in the background just fading in the fog, but it's not too bad, it's not taking too much distraction away. And yeah, so the matter was just, I took like probably 50 photos at this point, just waiting for the fog to roll and show enough of this buff tree here, but not too much of them. So that was just a waiting time. And yeah, composition was easy, and I didn't have too much choice because there was some big branches, and Michael's know how I hate like branch coming up on my composition.
What I really like about that one though is how it sort of just fades off.
Yeah.
I like the layering effect because you just simply have 3 layers of trees in that, which just look really nice and atmospheric.
Yeah, that was what I was saying. I took about 50 photos to get the right amount of fog, because sometimes you had too much fog, and this tree were the only thing you was showing, and this you couldn't see it. So it was really, and this time this one was too much in fog and not this one. So it was really like waiting for the perfect time.
I guess what that goes to show you is that I took pretty much that exact same shot as him, but because I didn't work it as much as him, mine just looked like trash.
Yeah, you took this composition?
Yeah, it was just a quick, snapshot that I took with my 100-400, done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew that it was something that I really... And what's working very well here is the color tone. I think these green are not too saturated. There's a bit of orange yellow in this tree, which is going very well with the red orangey earth.
Yeah.
I think the color are working very well together here. Yeah, but so simple image, but very efficient. But once again, it's very funny because I went with the expectation into this gorge and ended up with a photo which is really not what I was expecting to.
Well, that's just why we need to go without expectations. That's what everyone says. If you go without expectations, you'll never be disappointed. So then we pretty much went a bit further down the gorge, and we stopped one more time to take photos, which was just at a tree that I'd spotted along a creek. Julien went ahead to take that one, but the rain had started subsiding, and I decided I might risk it and try and take up the drone. And that's where I got that just really nice cinematic footage that you saw at the intro of my video, where the drone was descending down from the clouds. And even in that video, I included that one image just looking back down the valley. That was I'd probably say up till now, it's probably one of the favorite drone photos I've ever taken. Just because I personally find it really hard to compose an image with the drone. But I was over the moon happy with this one. Just the composition lined up perfectly. I even took one more photo in that same flight, and it just didn't work out the way that I was hoping that it would. So I'm glad that this one was good. But it was this image here, and ever since the last video, I actually did just a tiny little edit on it after Julien mentioned to me that it looked a little bit vibrant for the conditions that we were actually shooting in, which I tended to agree to. So I just brought the saturation and exposure down just by a tiny little bit. But what I love about this image is that it really, really feels like it's leading you out of the gorge. It's not just a photo of a thing. And this is what I've been trying to emphasize in a lot of my work recently. I don't want to take photos of things, I want to take photos of scenes. And to me, this feels like just a very nice scene, where you have this very defined foreground here, and you just have the snaking pattern of that creek that we were hiking along, leading you back out of the valley, and leading you into sort of an atmospheric, obscured landscape, which is right here. And just continuing on this idea of leading you through the image. What I really loved about this was how the gorge sort of mimics that pattern, and you can see the snaking shapes of it also leading you off in that same direction. I just really love this image, especially when you put it into a 16:9 crop. It just looks so nice. The only thing that I wish could be a little bit nicer with this, and Julien was having a play with this image earlier again before we started recording, where he was just trying to bring out a little bit more detail in the clouds, because it could have been nice to just have, a little bit more clarity, a little bit more moodiness, and all this clouded area up here in the image. But the reality is that these clouds were actually pretty thin, and that's why this landscape looks so, I guess, well lit. So because they were so thin, it was really hard to get any actual mood out of them. So the way that you see the image now is pretty much as good as I can get it, because other than that, it would just be either extremely overexposed or extremely underexposed sort of mess. Unfortunately, there wasn't that much mood in the sky, but honestly, I'm not too bothered by it.
It's been a great image.
Yeah, I really like this image. But after we finished with that image, that was pretty much us done for the day.
Yeah, and mostly done for Carnarvon, because we were planning on just doing the platypus the next morning. We were planning also to go in other part of the national park, a bit more remote, where I was not totally sure the four-wheel driver I have will be up for it. But it continued to rain, and there's a lot of this, how they call it, black mud there, and already dried. I was not sure if the car would do it, so it was not possible to go in the rain. So it's when we decided to ditch our trip in the center of Australia to go basically 8 hours drive to the coast, a bit north-west.
Yes.
But it's a really nice, if you are in for like a week of road trip, I feel it's a really nice road trip to not do like two forth and back on the coast, going to this central Carnarvon Gorge, going to the Whitsundays and going back to Brisbane is a really nice week trip, week and a half.
Really want to take your time because especially that last 8 hour between Carnarvon and...
you could split it in two.
Yeah, you'd need to split it in two just because that drive, at least the way we were doing it, it was way too rushed to really enjoy the landscape. You'd really want to do it over 2 days and sort of just take your time going through because there are so many nice trees in that area and just such a nice flat landscape where you can really get, as I already did before, some nice abstracts or even just some nice scenes.
Yeah, I suppose it's more a 10-day road trip. But yeah, in this way there was a lot of bottle tree. I am thinking to go back one day to just spend a couple of time on the road, not even in the national park, just shooting bottle trees at sunrise and sunset. So we arrived to the beach. Once again, very short for the sunset. Even maybe we went a couple of minutes after the sunset for the blue hours. Didn't get anything.
Yeah, honestly, this is sort of where my video has fallen apart, and you'll see this in the most recent video I uploaded that I didn't really record much, and it was partially because we weren't really able to find much that I was inspired to shoot, and also just because I was a little bit depressed because of that flight that got cancelled on me. That was just like, ugh, that was awful.
But yeah, but it was, I mean, the sunrise, so we went back to the same little spot the day afterward for sunrise. Once again, a bit late, I think, like really on time for sunrise, didn't have the time to find a lot of composition.
Yeah, I really squandered that sunrise myself. I was pretty miserable, just sort of crouched down by the mangrove. That was the day where I just had that footage, which I stole from Julien, of just walking down the beach with his GoPro, and then I included my image at the end of it. But that was...
I still don't see this image.
It was honestly not that worth seeing. It was pretty much just an HDR of some mangroves with some roots leading you in. I'll include it here if you don't know which one I'm talking about. But I just wasn't really crazy about it. I mean, even the sunrise light that you see in Julien's image, for some reason I just didn't have it in mind. Like, maybe my camera was just aimed in the wrong spot.
I was Faro also, so I did a panorama very wide, so I managed to get the full, while you were pretty only on the yellowish part of it.
Yeah, and just to add insult to injury, this is where the scourge of the midges came in.
You didn't know about midges.
I didn't know about midges until now.
I've been in Scotland for a year and I knew like 10 times worse. So.
Or as they are known in Australia as sandflies. They are the worst thing ever. So by the end of the trip, I had bites all up and down my legs, and they lasted for quite literally 3 weeks of just constant itchiness. It was the worst thing ever, and honestly, I've been avoiding mangroves or any sort of freshwater, saltwater area like that ever since, because I just hated that. But that was pretty much our photography done for that day, wasn't it?
No, because we went for sunset to the other beach where we didn't shoot much, but...
No, we did sunset at the one where the beach was all rocks, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we tried to take some photo, but Michael was a bit in a spirit, like up and down these days.
That morning after we shot that sunrise, we went to a cafe down in Airlie Beach for some breakfast. And as we're sitting there, Julien is telling me about the Whitsundays, the forbidden land that he's not allowed to go to without his wife. And I was thinking, what sort of things could we do that she wouldn't be happy about? You know, we could go on a cruise, we could go scuba diving, or we could go on a plane flight over the Great Barrier Reef. And then I looked it up just as a joke, and I saw $150 for one flight ticket for a 1 hour flight, and I thought, geez,
More than 50% down.
More than 50% down. I think the original price was either $400 or $350. And I just had to take that. So I went in. Actually, no, I ummed and ahed for it a bit. And that spot actually ended up getting taken. So I wasn't able to book it for that price. But then later in the day, I found another one for $200, which was... It wasn't half price, but it was still a pretty damn good deal, $150 off. And I went ahead and booked that one for the next day. And within about an hour, the company called me and they said, "You're the only one on that flight, so we're going to cancel that on you unless anyone books that in the next 24 hours. And I was just so down from that. And from that point on, the day just took a huge downhill. So on top of that, there wasn't much photography, not too much of an issue. But going to our next campsite, it was, I'd say, a 2.5 kilometer walk out to the campsite from the car park we were staying. It was a really hot day, so it was a miserable walk to get out there with, 30 kilo packs full of camera gear, tents, camping equipment, all that sort of stuff. And we just get out there and we find that the beach is entirely covered in rocks and just absolutely miserable. And on top of that, again, hundreds of midges at night. But to add insult to injury, when we arrived at camp, I realized that I had left all of my food at the car. Which meant for me, if I didn't want to starve that night, I had to walk all the way back to the car and all the way back with all my food. So what I decided to turn that into was a 5 kilometer run. So I did a trail run all the way back up the hill we walked over to get back to the car, and then all the way back in the middle of the afternoon sun in Airlie Beach, which was like 30 degrees. It was absolutely miserable, and on top of not being able to go on my flight, I was just so down and depressed that night.
And I spent a miserable night because it was 30 degrees and I thought it would be very warm at night, but it got really cold at night. And to not have the exactly 30 kilo backpack, I just said, I don't take my sleeping bag this night. So I was cold all night, and I ended up using, because we didn't put the cover over the tent.
Oh yeah.
Because it was nice weather, so I ended up putting this like as a life jacket, the life thing around me.
A life blanket.
A life blanket. That was the top part of my tent over me during the night. To manage to get just warm enough to have maybe an hour of sleep during the night.
Yeah, but luckily we found that small patch of sand, because if we hadn't, we would have been completely screwed. Just with the number of midges out, if we didn't have a tent, we would have been eaten to death in the morning.
Yeah,
like just covered in bites.
Especially when it was a bit hard to put the tent on the rocks because it was coral, so a bit sharp.
And they were big rocks too, they weren't little ones.
So yeah.
But luckily that worked out for us.
But we didn't take any photo during this day. The sunrise or the sunset, I don't remember, was decent, but...
Yeah, the sunset was alright. I took one drone photo, which I put in my video, which was just sort of with the coast leading off and then a little island on the left, but not crazy about that shot, but it was something to show for the sunset of that day.
Yeah.
And the sunrise, I didn't shoot anything, really. I know that was for the sunrise. The drone shot was for the sunrise of that day.
Yeah, but it was not that good, this place. At least for normal photo.
It was pretty depressing.
Yeah. Especially the weather didn't look so good compared to when we arrived in Airlie Beach the first day when it was bad weather. Everything looked very bluish, very nice.
Yeah.
And so he managed to get in the morning a nice call telling him that he would have his flight finally.
Yes.
So the mood lifted a bit. He was happy again and not grumpy anymore.
Yeah, somehow... in like 24 hours, a couple decided that they'd booked that plane flight. And I didn't realize this on the trip, but it was mentioned to me after that I hadn't had a shower in well over a week. I hadn't had a proper shower in well over a week. And here I was in a tiny Cessna plane with a pilot this far on my left and a couple on a nice romantic plane flight once in a lifetime over the Great Barrier Reef right behind my stinky self. Oh, I didn't realize how bad I would have smelled, but it would have been pretty awful for them. But I was just in that plane, happy as ever, 100 to 400 in hand, and I was just snapping away, taking photos, just having the time of my life. Honestly, I think Julien should have came with me because he really missed out. but he didn't want to pay for the plane tickets.
Yeah.
And I wasn't generous enough to buy him one. But on top of the fact that we went to the reef, what I really liked compared to those reef photos was the ones I got of Whitehaven Beach, right by the Whitsundays. That was sort of the final destination for the plane flight, and it made for some just beautiful abstracts. I mean, I can try and explain why I like this image, but really the ones that I took at Whitehaven Beach, they're so abstract that you can just feel that you like them. But I'll try and use some sort of language to show why it's nice.
Just a couple of leading lines.
Yeah, a couple of leading lines, just the general justification. I mean, so it's sort of hard to describe the composition of an image like that just because it's such an abstract representation. But if I was to go ahead and sort of describe why I like this image, I'd say because I have this little spit of land coming out here, which is sort of mimicked by this underwater formation right here in the sand. I like how this formation right here is sort of mimicked by this smaller one here where it just leads you out of the frame in this direction. And this all up here, again, mirrors the smaller shape here, and it sort of sends you up in this direction. I feel like this is a very dynamic image because it really creates a journey looking through it where you really experience the image. But again, it's so hard to describe an abstract image like this rather than just saying, I like it because it's a nice image. There's nothing wrong with that.
If you're looking at it now, I just feel that maybe, I'm not sure about the bottom part, if its white bit is not distracting the composition.
Yeah, that is possible. I was looking at that like when I was going through the editing and I wasn't sure how I felt about it, but yeah, honestly not too worried. Yeah. I mean, you could just crop it in like that again, but I actually feel like it sort of grabs you in the image.
Yeah, maybe.
Because with this landform here, because it has such a high luminosity to it, it's where you want to look when you look at the image the first time. And if that was the case, you'd be looking off in this direction in the image. You'd be sort of being taken out of it. And I think that
might be true. Yeah.
This base of whiteness right here sort of brings you back into the image.
That's funny because I really like more the photo of Whitehaven Beach than the coral in the Great Barrier Reef, even if it looked more obvious at first.
Yeah, I was crazy about the ones in the reef as well when I was taking them, but honestly, Whitehaven Beach, just over time, it's proven to be just a lot nicer. But I think out of the ones that I showed you in my video, out of the 800 photos I took, I actually got about 50 that I was really happy with. And I've only shared, I think, 7 or 8 in the video just because what am I going to do? Create a 20-minute long slideshow of photos from the reef? It's not really realistic. But I'll be sharing them over time on my Instagram, so you'll have to keep up with that and check them out. But so happy with the photos I took on that day. And honestly, for the price, $200 for an hour flight, it may seem like a lot, but it was entirely worth it.
It was awful, yeah.
And that was pretty much the end of our trip. I mean,
after that, we went to Cape Hillsborough.
Yeah, after that, we went down to Cape Hillsborough.
A 1 hour drive.
Yeah, 1 hour. 2 hour and a half drive, I'd say, yeah.
Got some pizza.
This one had a nap on the beach. Oh, had a little bit of a wrestle. Julien showed me his wrestling skills. I really wish I got that all on recording because Julien was just throwing me around. By the end of it, Julien had a big cut down the front of his neck right here, and I had a big scratch on my back. But
yeah, you have some spirit. You don't give up. Even after being like 50 times underwater.
It was fun though.
Yeah, well, it was very fun for me.
And then after that, we took I took those photos of the trees with the sunset light coming down on them. But honestly, not crazy about them. I like them as compositions, but they're nothing award-winning or anything like that.
Yeah, you gave me your drone to use, so I managed to get a good sunset shot of the island for drone. I just show it quickly.
Yeah.
And it was really nice. Your drone was really great because it was going far. My drone, not far over.
You can
always see your drone.
I think I might have even used that footage in the video that I put up.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but it was a nice end of the night, and we just came back exactly at the same spot in the morning because there is some kangaroo going to the beach. It's supposedly natural, but they are fed by a ranger.
No, we can't go to that yet.
No?
Because that morning we decided, okay, we have a 12-hour drive to Brisbane. We need to be...
Everything is fading.
No, that one's just out of batteries, which is understandable. That camera just died. But, story time. We decided we have a 12-hour drive to Brisbane. We need to be as efficient as possible with our time. The second it gets to, I think we said 8 o'clock in the morning, we need to be out and on the road. So Julien says, we'll set the alarm extra early. We'll wake up at, I think it was 5:30, so we haven't, it was 4:30. It was 4:30, so we have enough time to get the kangaroos, set up, take photos, and get out. And yet somehow, miraculously, his alarm goes off at 3:30 in the morning. And we don't realize this. It's because we're in such a rush. We want to be efficient. Alarm goes off. We pack up the tent, pack everything in the car, get the camera bags ready, get in the car, and we're driving to the location. We get to the location, and then we realize, wait, why is the sun not coming up? And Julien checks...
It's awfully dark for being just half an hour before sunrise.
And then Julien checks his phone, and lo and behold, his alarm went off at 3:30 in the morning. Which even more baffling is, he then opens up his clock app, and he shows me the alarm he set, and the alarm says 4:30 in the morning.
I think it was a problem of time zone somewhere.
Time zones in Airlie Beach.
Nah.
There's no time zone.
So well.
What I personally think happened is, this guy did it on purpose. It's the only explanation.
I waked, put my alarm at 3:30, make it ring, change it back to 4:30.
It's the only explanation.
Yeah, I really don't understand actually how it went.
But we got there an hour early.
Which was really nice because I got a nice photo of the moon set over the sea with like the island on the other side. But a photo that I really, really like. I still need to go get it through the noise actually.
It was nice for you, but what I did was I just went back to the car and had some breakfast.
Yeah.
But now you can continue with the kangaroos after they know what you did.
Yeah, so because we are there in time, we were very much in time for the kangaroo to come on the beach naturally, fed by a ranger. And like I mentioned earlier, it was school holidays. Very nice. So I very much enjoyed doing wildlife. I really have trouble doing wildlife when they are fed and when it's not natural. But when there's children and parents running all around and petting the kangaroo when it's clearly said that, yeah, that's a bit a strange thing. Because at the start, the kangaroo is supposed to be far away from people. They put like some limitation that people don't get too close to them. And like 5 minutes after, it's like open pub. Like, yeah, children go. I mean, it's a very nice setting because you have this beach, sunrise, kangaroo, but it felt so unnatural to me that I did some photo, but I didn't really enjoy the moment. And yeah, basically, not what I expected.
Yeah, luckily the way that I managed to frame up the footage, it didn't look like there were a lot of tourists, but sort of put into perspective what it was like there. Keep in mind that this beach that we were shooting at was right beside a very popular caravan park. So imagine an entire caravan park, parents, kids, and all coming down to the beach, which is quite literally 50 meters away from them, to watch the kangaroos. And they were all crowded around, and there's Julien over here with his sour face, his camera on his tripod with the long lens out, trying to sort of duck between them and get photos. But I took having
my 400mm shot in front and the guy, and just a mother putting herself between me and the camera, and which I don't mind. I mean, they don't have to be careful of my doing photos. But just that you're not meant to go to the kangaroo. So yeah, no.
So I took the easy route, and I decided it's not the craziest location. I'm just not going to worry about the kangaroos. I'll shoot the landscapes around. Honestly, didn't get many photos. Not too bothered by that. But it was a pleasant morning for me. Not so much for you.
Yeah, no. If you go there, really time it out of the school age. Yeah. What I say, because it can still be nice even if they are fed. If you are like only 5-6 people on the beach, if you manage to be that many. Or that not many, then it can be a pleasant morning. And if people are not going too close as a kangaroo. And, but here it was like really like 15 kangaroo for 50 people. Yeah. So not really working for me at least.
Yeah, it was. But then after that, it was that 12-hour drive back to Brisbane, which just never seemed to end. And just a little heart attack. The heart attack, little
2 hours before.
Little cherry on top. 2 hours before.
Arriving.
10 hours into driving. I'm driving the car and I say to Julien, hey, you want to check out the photos that I took from our trip? I put them all in my SD card case because I just got an SD card case before the trip. So as Julien was driving earlier, I took all my SD cards out of my Osmo, that's over there, out of my camera, out of my drone, put them all in this SD card case. And in my mind, I thought I put it back in my camera bag.
So, or in your jacket.
Yeah, and so as I'm saying to Julien and I'm driving, I say, hey, you want to see the photos I took? Just reach into my camera bag, grab out the SD card and have a look. And he looks in there and he's like, there's no SD card case in there. And I think to myself, well, surely it's somewhere else. Maybe it's in my jacket. Take a look at my jacket. There's no SD card case in my jacket. Take a look in the glove box. Take a look in the glove box. There's no SD card case in the glove box. And what proceeded to happen was we pull over on the side of the highway, pretty much middle of the night, and tear apart the entire car.
Calling every fuel station we've been in because he thought, I put in my jacket, went to toilet, it probably fell in the toilet.
Yes, because there was the slight, ever so slight possibility that I'd simply put the SD card case on my lap, forgotten about it, and as I opened up the door to get out to a petrol station, it just fell off and onto the floor there. So
first we had to remember which fuel station we were.
We had to check every fuel station we went to, every stop we made. We had to call all of them to make sure that they didn't have it. And lo and behold, after taking everything out of the boot...
We are at that of going back probably 4 or 5 hours backward to have to go back this 5 or 6 hours back.
Yeah. Taking everything out of the car, the back seat, the front seat, the boot, opening up every bag, looking at every bag. I finally find my SD card case, and it was in the hip pouch of my hiking bag.
I'm pretty sure I lost a few things on the unpacking all the car. I'm pretty sure I lost my GPS at this moment.
But at least you didn't lose your SD cards.
No.
Because if I'd lost that case, that would have been every photo, every video I took, everything from the drone, all my SD cards were in there. So I was very close to having a panic attack.
Yeah, I think you had a panic attack.
I probably did. Ugh. I don't even want to...
And I was not really in the mood of going back 6 hours.
I wasn't either. But after that, the trip was relatively smooth sailing from then.
Yeah.
And then we finished our drive back to Brisbane, and that was the end of it.
And we missed Harvey Bay Fries burger.
We missed Harvey Bay Fries. Yeah, all the spots that we wanted to stop for dinner, they weren't open yet, so...
And we ended up in Subway.
Subway for dinner.
Bad.
Bad.
Yeah. No, it was a really nice trip.
You
don't get as many photos as I would have expected from a 10-day trip.
Then we can call it a scouting trip. We'll go back next week.
But I really, really want to go to Arcadia and all these bottle tree and shoot a bit more of them.
Yeah.
Would be great. The only thing is you probably would have to do it in winter if you want to shoot further there.
Yeah.
To get not too much heat distortion.
Yeah.
But yeah, good trip.
But anyway, if you guys stuck with us till now,
thank
you for watching. Probably not. There's probably no one watching right now, but we're having fun making this. It's all good. So
I'm not editing this. That's fine.
I'm editing this. He's gonna make another version of this, and he's gonna subtitle everything I'm saying in French for his channel. But you can find this guy at Julien Parrot on Instagram, on YouTube, if you're into French landscape photography.
And
check out his
photography.
Channel. I wouldn't go that far. But anyway, if you made it to this point in the video, leave a comment, let me know, tell me what you thought. Probably not going to do many of these very often. If we do a huge trip again, we'll go ahead and do another one. But this is sort of just a fun way to wrap up the trip here for us.
Getting food and
talking
about it.
But yeah. Thanks for watching, and subscribe. Have a good one. We did it. Only a few recording issues.